Hey everybody, welcome back to another week here at Wired Differently. We have me, Christina Blue Hooper, your business designer, Victoria Queen V. Caldwell, your fractional COO and expert of all things people systems, and Mindset Melanie Branch, your expert at taming your brain so it'll do what you need to do every week. All right. We have a really good topic this week. We're talking about scalable systems in business and why they matter and how they change everything about how you are operating now, how you're going to operate in the future as you start bringing on more team members, more clients. I think a good place to start, though, is for people who don't understand what we mean when we say scalable, right? Because a lot of people don't truly understand. Like, we see that buzzword thrown around by the bros all the time, but like, what does it actually mean to be scalable? Now, Victoria, you help people put teams into place so they can scale. So would you like to start with that definition?
I will say scalable in terms of how do you, and I love the word leverage. So scalable means that the business can grow without this constraints. It can continue to grow beyond, your capacity to do all of the stuff yourself. Like it doesn't, your capacity to expand the business is not, it's not, what's the word? It's not limited by constraints and bottlenecks. And the only really real way to do that is through people and systems. So you have to create the right systems that allow you to scale, to grow. And also you have to have the right people in the right seats as well. So those two kind of work hand in hand. And on top of that, that's where you get your time back and your profit margin. So, and there's only two ways to do it, and it's through people and systems. So the two kind of go hand in hand because, as earlier stage entrepreneurs, when you get to the point where you just can't do anymore.
Yeah.
You're limited by time, but if you have the right systems in place, you don't have to be limited by your ability or the ability of a few team members if you have the right systems in place as well.
No, Melanie, you see some of the mindset issues that crop up as people start getting closer and closer to needing to scale, right? Like having to put systems into place. What happens when they're afraid that, they start hiring team members or letting go of parts of the process? Like, how do you normally approach that with people?
It's really important to shift out of hustle mode and into effortless authority. So it's more so, a system is important, having a funnel is important, that sort of stuff. But if you don't feel, do I need to switch my internet? It's being really bad, isn't it?
Oh, it was a little glitchy, but it seems okay so far.
Oh no, hold on.
Right, so you freeze as you say that.
I know. I was trying to stay far away. But it really is it's your energy, it's your mindset, it's your belief system. Is that how many times do we hear somebody say, oh, well, I hired somebody and if they suck, nobody can do it like me. Or, we started systemizing and stuff started falling through the cracks and, all this other sort of stuff. And it's like, if you've done something once and it failed, does that mean it's always going to fail? Or does that mean maybe there's another way to do it? So it's more mental than it is anything else.
One thing I see with a lot of people that are earlier in business haven't hired someone yet necessarily, like maybe have hired out some projects, but don't have like a regular person in their company, is they really feel like they can't get where they want to go until they hire.
Yeah.
Like hiring is going to be this magical solution that's going to fix all of the overwhelm and all of the busy that they're feeling right now. And when they can do that, everything's going to get better. And that's part of why I really love this topic, because when we're talking about scalable systems, we're talking about the things you do before you hire. You keep doing them beyond, right? You're going to continue to build out systems and stuff beyond as you start hiring and building out a team, but you don't wait to build these things until you have a person to help you build them. Yeah. You need them now, even when you're a solopreneur, even when you're doing a lot of the work yourself, it's even more crucial. Right? Like the systems that I put in place to help promote and put together some of the stuff that we do right here for this show or that we do for our live trainings and stuff. It makes it where I can do more without needing to hire or put stuff out onto a team. Just by having these systems in place that can scale with me so I can hand them off to a person when I'm ready.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think we actually kind of answered this first question. What does it mean to actually have scalable systems in business? We kind of talked about what it is to scale, but like when we actually install some of these systems into our business, what it means is more mental freedom, especially in the beginning as a solopreneur, because like I don't have to turn on all of the higher brain cell functions to do something and remember every single step. I have something that I can follow. I have AI assistants that are trained to help me. I have AI prompts pre-written that can help me do certain tasks, right? I'm not huge on prompt engineering. I think especially if you're using things like ChatGPT, it's a conversational AI. It likes to talk to you. But when you're doing the same things over and over and over again, you can start with just copy paste prompts. You don't have to learn how to build custom GPTs. You can just say, this is how I tell it to do this. Let me copy it, put it over here in a document. And every time I do this task, I'm going to paste that back in so that I'm having the same conversation and I can improve those prompts over time. Right. So to me, having scalable systems in business means more emotional, more mental calorie freedom, being able to do more in less time.
And it's not just that, because you know how I feel with the more time. Sometimes you get into the wrong things, but but also the time. I mean, it frees you up, especially if you're in flow. It frees you up, not just the mental, but you make better decisions. You make better decisions when you're not bogged down in the minutia of just trying to get it done and plug through it or whatever. So it keeps having this ripple effect in terms of not having them and in terms of when you get them in place. So now you can, and then having a scalable system for hiring. You need a system for hiring it in of itself. Like, who do you need? What position do they need to be in? How do they do this thing? How do you make sure that it's being done according to the way you said it? How do you improve it? And, you know, none of that stuff gets looked at in the beginning. It's typically you're hiring out of desperation, which again is a poor decision because you're bogged down in the minutia. So you hire not the right person. Then you're frustrated with the person that you hired. And then you just end up in this endless loop. So when you start the systems early and get in the habit of it and following, as you would always say, following your systems, then it's easier to hand off. And like Melanie said, if it doesn't work one time, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means that maybe you found a gap in the process. Maybe you found a kink that you need to fix. And you fix it, and that's what continuous improvement is all about. You say, oh, okay, that's something we didn't see. Let's fix it. And then you gradually, over time, before you get it, everything is pretty airtight. But you don't start off with perfect systems most of the time.
No,
Never. You actually, like, the goal is to build the imperfect system to start with.
Right.
Because you need the system, right? An imperfect one is better than none.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's never going to be perfect.
Too. It's real simple, especially if you don't have a team. Like, just the fact that when I started coaching people years ago, we would get on our scheduled coaching call and everything would be so exciting. And we would not schedule the next call at the end of that call. And then I put it onto myself to try and remember to schedule their next call and hunt them down and do all that. So now at the end of every coaching call on the agenda is schedule the next call. Since we're both right here looking at our calendar, let's schedule the next call. And if anything needs to change, now we both know when the call is and we can change it as needed, but you cannot put stuff off for future you to deal with. Everything has to be systemized. I've seen this with people who do group coaching. If you're starting out, you're going to have it. So instead of all of your clients being able to just send you a question, the questions go to this document or to this website or whatever it is. And then you address the top 5 questions once a month or something like that. Build the system to scale. It doesn't have to be scaled right now, but it's got to be, it can go from right now to where you want to go.
Yeah, it's got to be done in such a way that another person could understand it and do it, right?
Yeah.
When we're trying to say, like, can a system be scaled? Can you give it to someone else and they'll be able to execute it at the same level of, excellence that you can? Right?
And,
it's not, it's missing.
And that is where a lot of the disconnect comes in too, and why it's going to be imperfect in the beginning, because especially if you're a creator and you build the system, you build it for the way you understand it and the way your brain works, and you give it off to a person, you need to be sure that this person understands, because I know a lot of creators think they're being very clear when they communicate, and it's not always the case. And it's clear to who? Clear to you. But if they interpreted something that you said, and you have this 50,000 foot view, and you're thinking, why don't they get it? And you have to break it down almost Barney style. It doesn't mean the person is, incompetent. It means that they can't read your mind.
Yeah, we're not making assumptions on the knowledge they're bringing to the table. We're assuming that they don't know. And that's actually one of the things that people advise you to do when you're building out a system in the first place and you're trying to test if you've, written down your instructions the right way. Give it to somebody who is not an expert in the thing, who has never done the thing before. And if they can follow your instructions and get it done correctly, you've written good instructions.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think about it like, what would I hand my kid?
Yeah.
If I was giving this to my kid, they've never done it before. Have I written it down well enough? And it doesn't start there. It does not start there. It starts as, this is what I need to help me get it done. Right. With less effort, less thought, less brain cells going into it. And it grows. Right. Like Melanie's example of, at the end of the call, we're going to get it. That saves so much time. Oh my God. Think about that simple system
strategy.
Yeah. How much time that changes. And it can be executed by somebody else. It becomes a company standard that we always get the next call booked before we get off the current call.
Yep. Yeah. That's a sales training strategy, that book the next call before you get off this one.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and that's how most people think about it as a sales strategy, but look about it as like, if you're a solopreneur and you have very limited time, we all do, right? We're all overbooked on our time all of the time. Chasing someone to get that's, emails and text messages back and forth. Even if you've gone so far as to have a booking link so you can streamline it a little bit, you're having to check in with them. You're having to follow up with them. If that's 10 clients at 15 minutes per client, that's 2.5 hours a week ish.
Yeah. Adding you got to add the reminder to your phone. Hey, reach out to so-and-so at 10 a.m. on Monday morning to make sure that we have that call scheduled. It's a lot of brain power.
Yeah. And it was resolved with 5 minutes during the meeting of no extra time to get that booked, brought you back 2.5 hours ish of your week across 10 clients, right? Like it's simple things like that. We have a question from Katina. I love this one.
Yeah.
Get over the mental block to set up systems.
It does not have to be complicated. We're building the ship as we're sailing it. Figure out where the first biggest leaks are, fix those, and then the pressure's off and you can get fancier with your design.
Yeah. I'd say pick something that you're doing on a regular basis first, right? We're not going to put effort into building a system that we only do like once every 6 months, once every 3 months, something like that. If you've got something that you're doing every single day, if you've got something that you're doing every single week, if you've got something you're doing pretty frequently, then the steps are mostly the same. Start there and just write it down as you do it. Yeah. I literally sat here and, I produce this show each week and I set up our live training on campus each week for, the mentors that are doing the training. And, a few things have changed. So I literally just rebuilt that system earlier this week by writing down what we're doing now. Right. And I did it as I was doing it. I just kept a piece of paper over to the side. And as I was doing one set, I wrote down all of my steps. I did my little stuff with ChatGPT and what I was getting it to do. And then I went back and copy pasted everything I told ChatGPT into just a Google Doc. Done. This is what I told ChatGPT, copy paste Google Doc. And I looked at it and I was like, okay, I need to make it a little bit more generic so that I can use it for the next one and the next one and the next one, which usually just looks like moving like the details it needs to know about this particular instance to the bottom in a bullet list and making the original paragraph be more like, this is what I'm going to be trying to do. The details that you need to know about it are below. Here's I just copy paste and tweaked what I already had. Yeah. Less complication, the leaks, going to build the sales process. Yeah. It doesn't need to be super complicated. And it's usually just taking what you're already doing and writing it down.
And think about the systems are designed to streamline and make everything easier, everything more simple. If it's simple and dare I say easy, and then add in a little enjoyable, think about how much easier it's going to be to do it, right? If you can create a system and a strategy with your content where you actually like more than 10% of the process, it's not going to be like pulling teeth to get it done anymore. So don't be afraid to sprinkle some sort of dopamine inducing activity on top of the things that you need to get going, because we are all Neuro-Spicy here.
Yeah. 100%. I love that question. I love it. So I'm going to let Melanie kick us off on this next question. Why the heck are they putting it off? We know we need them. We know the benefit of them. We know, we've shared some strategies just now on how to get started with it. But like, why are they avoiding it in the first place? Why are they putting it off? What is going on in their head?
I'm going to hold everybody's hand while I say this, because nobody's going to like the answer, but it's because you don't believe that you're worthy of a better life. You still think that it has to be hard to earn money and it has to be hard to be successful, and that you have to trade your hard-earned time and energy and focus and print the money and send the money and ship the money to yourself, when in all actuality, you don't have to change anything about yourself right now other than what you believe you deserve to make these systems easy and actionable from the jump, right? You just really have to believe that you're worthy of a life that is more enjoyable, because that's what systemizing things do. Look at everybody on Instagram right now who's saying comment blank word and I'll DM this thing right over to you. That is the number one system or strategy for anybody who's trying to grow on social media. Just set it up. And if you're not tech savvy like me, listen, I'm so not tech savvy that I manifested a business partner that's tech savvy.
Well, and even if you don't know how to do the automations, if that's something that you want to do, just start doing it, right? You're going to manually respond to some DMs to start with, but that's the initial system. I'm going to check my messages and I'm going to respond back. And then I'm going to write a little template response. And then I'm going to start copy pasting that as my response. And then I'm going to go set up an automation so that it will watch for that keyword and it will put my response. But guess what? By the time we've automated it at that point, I've human written that response numerous times. I've copy pasted it into real conversations that I've had with real humans. And now I'm systemizing it with automations, right? But it was a system in the beginning when it was manual.
Yeah.
Not all systems are automated. Some of them are very manual. And in the beginning, it's good to have real interaction with humans. It's always good to have interaction with humans, but especially in the beginning. I feel like, if your social following is like 2,000 people and you get like a sum total of like 100 views on a post and maybe like 3 people like it and 1 person comments, you don't need big automations.
Yeah. Not yet.
Your social media. Like, you can do it yourself. Right. But I like what you said. I like and don't like what you said.
People being
some of the excuses that entrepreneurs use that signify that they're putting them off.
Yeah. I'll do it when this happens. I'll do it when I'm making this much money. I'll do it when I'm this busy. And it's like, no. Do it now. And then you make more money faster.
Yeah, I'll do it when I understand it better. I hear that one a lot. People are so afraid to systemize because they're like, I don't really know if I know what I'm doing. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants and doing da-da-da-da. I'm like, okay, but are you flying by the seat of your pants every single week when you do this thing? Yes. Okay. Well, guess what? When you start writing it down and following it every time, now you free up some brain cells to do what? Improve the process every time you do it. Because if you're sitting there and you're pulling up your same checklist, and I did this, I literally did like 3 events and I kept iterating my stuff as I did it. Because I'm like, that prompt isn't getting the response that I want. ChatGPT went off and did something wild. Like, what the heck? So I changed it a little bit. And then I'm like, okay, next go around. Like, this part feels a little strange now. And I know I did it for the last 3, but let's change this part now. I have bandwidth back.
Bandwidth.
Right? Like, I have that bandwidth back. And I know when you were saying that earlier, Melanie, one of the things that came to mind for me is, and I don't know why this is, but I feel like on my most productive days, I kind of have to feel a little hectic and frantic. Like, even if I wasn't, even if the day was kind of chill, when I'm thinking back on it, I'm like, yeah, I did. I'm so exhausted now. Oh. Like I
It's the
have to have
chemical.
that or I don't feel productive. If I've done just as many things, and you've shared this about one of our students before when they were working with you in the one-on-one, when they were like, yeah, I had such a low energy day. I just did this. And
He's a
this and
mentor
this.
now.
Yeah. It's like we don't feel like we're productive unless we're some level of frantic for some reason. Like a chill, low vibe, I checked 100 things off day doesn't have the same level as I checked off 5 things and I was manic as hell while doing them all.
Which becomes a problem when you have a team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't like that.
Because now when you're frantic, the team is frantic, they're inefficient, and they're burnt out because they're dealing with your energy that's only productive in your mind when it's frantic. And it's like, you know what? I'm not going to come to work every day dealing with this frantic person. And that's the productive you, you know.
Yep.
Well, and we've all experienced that on the receiving end and the giving end, right? Like you walk around your house on the day where you're in like a grumpy mood and you notice everybody else starts getting grumpy too, or you start walking around in a good mood and everybody else starts getting in a better mood, even if they were grumpy to start with. Or you're in a good mood and then the husband or a kid comes in the door and they've had a bad day. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, there went all that good energy I had going on. Like what the, we've all been on the receiving end of these negative, energetic exchanges. If we do that to a team, then we're just creating a room full of frantic people. We have to be the one to hold the calm
blaming them for not getting the work done. Like, how can you get work done when you're constantly in, okay, and this is what I do when they're in, okay, what kind of mood is she in today? Or they do much better when you're not around. That's really common. Because it's like, okay, now we can relax and get our work done without this frantic energy over here, micromanaging everything, trying to do this. And all you're doing is really, especially if there's no systems in place or not good ones, because you can have systems and they just suck. But if you have no systems in place and you have a frantic boss and the boss gets more frantic when the team gets like, they freeze, like, what do we do? Or they do something in a frantic method. And then there's mistakes in it. And then you get even more irritated. And now it's them. And it just keeps snowballing. And of course, it's all because of the team. That's why I said everything flows from the leader. As the leader goes, so goes the rest of the team. And so goes the business. And I'm not here to sugarcoat that part because that's the reality. That's just what it is. And even if you hired the wrong person, you hired the wrong person. So you have to own a lot of that. And even if you get it all together, you're still going to have some kinks along the way, but it won't be a pattern. It'll be an exception. So, okay, off that soapbox.
Christina, do you know what the fix is for those frantic, if you all find yourself in the scenario like Christina described of not feeling quote unquote productive unless you're being some frantic, manic, whatever, high energy, right? The solution, because the reason that you shift into that mode is because that's guaranteed to start sending out the norepinephrine and the dopamine and all the happy chemicals that we need in just the right cocktail for you so that you have the motivation to start and complete the task, right? Scientifically, that's what's happening. The only way that your brain is used to locking in on that energy is to get hyped up, right? You can also get into that energy with celebration, because being super excited about whether it's the latte that I got on my morning walk today, or whether it's the fact that I'm going on a date night tomorrow night, whatever it is, if I can lock in on how excited I am about something and that it's celebratory in nature, I'll get the same flood of happy chemicals to the brain.
I like that. I think that's why we benefit from having like what we're trying to do written down so we can check it off.
Yes.
Too. You get that kind of happy thing. And why a lot of your like task management systems and stuff, when you check things off, they have little celebrations, little fanfares, little like unicorns that jump onto the screen with confetti, because we need that little celebration moment to give us that. And, Katina brought up a good point. One of our mentors at the Academy, productivity doesn't look one way. Productivity is different for everybody. Some people need to get lots of stuff done. Some people are happy getting one thing done each day. Right?
Some people are easy to start and hard to finish. Some people are hard to start, but will finish things every time.
Yep.
That's a good point too.
Yeah. And I know this is feedback I hear a lot too is when people start putting systems into place, they start feeling like it deadens their creative energy.
Yeah.
Let me get in that. And that's because it
Have that
takes you out of
soapbox.
flow.
Yeah.
If it does, it's because it takes you out of flow. But once you set it up, that's why you got a period of time where you do it and then you set it up and you spend a little bit of time there, but you don't stay there. See, a lot of times we want to be in flow 100% of the time. That's just not in the beginning. It's not realistic. But you're out of flow a whole lot more when you don't do it. So my goal is to get you in flow 80% of the time, 20% of the time in those complementary things that don't take you out of flow, but you don't necessarily, I mean, they're not necessarily in your flow, but they're not so far out to that it just stifles your creativity. But when you don't have them, then you spend 20% of your time in flow and 80% of your time out of flow. And that thought, because imagine if all you had to do is that one thing and everything else was in flow, it wouldn't seem so bad. It's bad because it's magnified by all of the other things you're doing that's taking you out of flow. And this is just another thing that is like, you know, you're already drowning and somebody hands you something and it's just like, oh, it's another thing for you to do. But being out of flow does stifle creativity with everyone. And that's why it's so important to get in flow to begin with. And the team as well.
Yeah. And you're very rarely going to experience like flow throughout every step of a task or a project that you're trying to complete. There's going to be parts of it that you enjoy and there's going to be parts of it that you hate. When you can put that system into place for this is how we do this thing from A to Z, then I can spend more time and energy on the parts that I enjoy, less time and energy on the things that I don't, right? It's like there's parts of when I'm producing the stuff that I really enjoy that I'm having fun with. Like I love taking our podcast episodes when we're doing the show and turning those into a blog post at the end. I think that's a lot of fun. I hate making the clips. Drives me freaking crazy. Like there's numerous weeks where Melanie's like, where are the clips? And I'm like, I didn't make them yet. Right. So I needed to put a system into place to help me do the parts I don't want to do so that I can do what I need to do. I can focus on it a little bit more. And even then, when I don't have to sit here and watch the entire episode and try and find the clips, I have an AI that goes and finds them for me. Right. Not hard, not expensive. By the way, you can use Substack. It will do it for you for free. And make
if
like
anything,
6 clips.
Systems are going to make you more creative because they're going to give you your time back. They're going to make it so that you're not stopping everything, right? Like I used to, before ChatGPT, I used to spend 3 to 4 hours trying to craft a sales email 5 days a week. Same thing for a blog post. Now, hi, ChatGPT, I want to send an email to my list about this thing with this story, with this call to action. Keep it in my brand voice. I love you so much. Copy, paste. There you go.
Let you focus on the creative part instead of the like painstaking build out the details, make sure all of it's right, make sure that you've worded it for direct response copywriting, that you've structured it. Yeah, it lets you brain vomit. And I think the part where it starts to feel like it's stifling creativity is in the execution of the system, right? Because you build it up.
You only have to make it once.
And then you're sitting down and you're following it. And if you're not enjoying the process, if you're not having fun with it and you're just simply following a checklist and checking it off and following a checklist and checking it off, it can start to feel a little bit grindy. It can start to feel like this is getting a little bit boring. And the good news is that's a good time to maybe think about, is it time to make any changes or improvements to the process? Is there anything we can do better? And reignite the creativity. It might be a good time to look at hiring someone to take that thing off your plate. If you look at it and say, no, I've done everything I can for this. I like it. It works. It's functional. I'm just getting bored running it. Let's see if it's time to bring someone in and give this to them. And that also means when we hire, we're giving people actual jobs and not just dumping off everything we don't want to do. We actually say, here's the thing you're going to be doing in this role. Here's the steps, here's the instructions. Does this feel like something you could do? Does this feel like something you would enjoy doing? And we can have a conversation around it. Instead of just being like, I hate making content. I want you to make all my content for me and leave me alone.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be set up
for
success.
It doesn't sound like me. This is not right.
Yeah. I see that so often. I don't know what it is. I know a lot of people don't like making content. We have all of our mindset reasons for doing it and all those kind of things. But like, seriously, if this person could make content on the topic that you're the expert in at the level that you could make content in, why in the hell would they work for you? They would be a competitor.
And those are always the earlier stage entrepreneurs too. I mean, you typically they do come later, but these are not the ones that are struggling. Let's say if you might have a successful business offline or whatever, and you might want somebody to do it, but a lot of times it's very early stage, and it's like you're still figuring it out yourself, and you're like, I mean, I have numerous people in my circle that do that. And I get it. I get why they want to hand it off, because it's so stressful and you get in all the mindset things around it. And, you know, not everybody's like Melanie, who would just plop up on a video or whatever. And, you know, and just, who knows, just riff with no preparation at all and be completely comfortable. Not everyone is like that. And it's basically like the systems thing. It's so just the thought of it is just so draining, because it takes a lot for somebody who's not built that way to do it.
Yeah.
So, and we talk about creating content that, you know, like you like written content. I like audio. I'm okay with video, but audio is easier for me. I don't get into the gremlins on audio. On video, I probably will. Melanie, you know,
Video all day.
Video all day.
All day.
Video can
If
be
it's
turned into
audio, I won't know
sometimes.
what's going on. That's why I message all my clients and they message me back on Marco Polo, which is a video messaging app. I got to be able to see you, or I have to see a transcript. I'll have no idea what's going on if all I'm doing is hearing it. I'll have no idea.
Yeah.
I won't
auditory processing issues.
And I process auditory. So I can, like, a lot of times, like when I'm listening to podcasts or audiobooks, I can be walking, doing my walk, and I'm listening to it and I'm processing at the same time.
Yeah.
But that's just the way I'm wired. And I mean,
It'll sound like somebody speaking a different language. I'll be like, what were they talking? I can't do it.
And that's what we were talking about, I think, a little bit last week, or maybe it was in my training. When you have a client, maybe it's because you're telling them to build content in a way that takes them out of flow. I know I'm beating the flow, whatever. Yeah. But if you're telling them, like with another client that you have, Christina, that their social media marketing company was having them do a ridiculous amount of video content, and he was just struggling.
Yeah. And the funny part was we figured out that video is actually the way he likes to create content sometimes.
Yeah.
If he knows the topic really well, he likes to riff, and they were giving him scripted videos.
Yeah.
Ugh, those are hard.
He would prefer to riff on it if he knows the topic. If he doesn't feel really confident in his knowledge, he actually defaults to written. He likes to plan his thoughts out in writing, and then he can riff a video around it, but he has to think in written and communicate in video.
I can understand that.
So, I mean, understanding those things, this is where like your systems start to support your creativity, because when we understand that, guess what we can do now? We can build a process, a system that supports the way he likes to work. We understand that he likes Facebook and Instagram. We understand that if he understands the topic well, he can riff straight in video, which means he can work from bullet points, because when he writes in bullet points. Right. So it's really easy for us to now start being like, okay, this is the topic we want to put some content out around. What are the top 5 things that you would want someone to know about it? And he'll just be like, boop, 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 boop. And then he can make a video.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
And we know he likes Facebook and Instagram. So we're going to create for Facebook and Instagram, because that's where he hangs out when he's having fun. That's what he does in his free time. And then we can create systems to repurpose that content into other platforms, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, etc. So he can grow on those platforms, but he doesn't have to worry about it. He can let a team member handle putting it out into the other platforms while he focuses over here. Right. So that's one of the, like, we've even had this experience with a student who did not understand blogging, did not understand social media, did not understand email marketing, was trying to learn all of it while trying to do it. And when we sat down and we built a system for it and we said, okay, you like thinking in written. She was trying to make videos, but she thinks in written, and she was writing entire blog articles just trying to create a video script. So it's like, well, let's just start with blog articles and go from there. So we start with identify a topic, write a blog article. What do you need to do to write a blog article? And got her stuff together so ChatGPT could help her. And then we said, okay, now that you have the article, let's put that out onto social media. Let's have ChatGPT write 3 social posts from different angles that you can use. Cool. Now we have social posts. Now let's invite people to come and read the article in our email list and write an email that's going to share some of the highlights and then let them come read it to do more. And now that we have that system in place, she's executing like a marketer who's been doing it for 10 years just because she wrote down the steps.
Yeah.
She still doesn't even fully understand all of them. She's not like an expert at writing, the best blog articles. She's leaning on ChatGPT to help with some of that. But like, done, right? So now she can be creative and she can think about the content. And she can think about the person who's going to read it and who would benefit from it. And then she's going to start going back with her whole library of articles and filming videos to go with them. Now that she's comfortable with the content and the process, she can do new things. So I think it can actually enable creativity instead of stifling it as you start to build out these systems.
Exactly. And, that's one of the things, and I didn't even realize I was doing it until you said something, but I think it's just so natural for me to try to work around a person's flow. Like I work with a client who just didn't struggle with creating video, could pop up there like Melody in a minute, and did a lot of, had a huge following on social, huge, but they have to be in the moment.
Yeah.
So giving them I wouldn't, a scripted video would just be, blah, but some people, I only want scripted.
Yeah.
Okay. I can script it for you. Now with AI, I can even script it for you. But I just say, okay, here are the bullet points. But I also had to deal with other things. But I'm like, okay, these are the things I need you to cover in this video. This is the goal. These are the things that I need you to cover, and let her riff. As long as it accomplishes the goal in the next video, because for what I'm doing with the launches, I probably need 4 videos. You can get through 4 videos, because those videos, when I'm scripting, when I'm doing them, they're meant to last a long time, right? So it's not like this social content thing that you have to, but in her case, she had all of that anyway, because she was a content creator, but how she got in the flow creating that content, even though she could create it easy on video, was I had to work around how she needed to get that content created, because if I took her out of that, then she just flat out wouldn't do it.
Like some people need to be interviewed. They can't riff. They can't just sit here and have an idea and run with it and do it. They ramble, they blah, 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 so they need a script.
I'm better being interviewed too.
Some people need the interview, right? And even in that case, you don't necessarily need another human to come interview you. One of the coolest freaking things that I've seen people do is prompt ChatGPT on their phone, the voice mode where it can talk to you and things like that. Tell it, hey, I'm going to have you interview me for my podcast episode or for this video that I need to create. Here's some questions that I want you to ask me. You can tell it to stick to only those questions verbatim, or to also add extra questions if it feels so inspired to do so. It can interview you. You can record your responses, and then you can either leave it because it sounds like it talks, right? You can leave it in there interviewing you, or you can cut those pieces out. And then you still get all of that, like you're responding to somebody without having to hire a person to interview you or to go be interviewed on a podcast. There's so many little tricks like that you can use. I've even seen people where they record themselves asking the questions, and then they play that, and then they answer. So they have somebody to kind of play off of. Right? And there's so many different tricks.
We would behoove ourselves to mention the system is designed to support the life that you need right now and the life that you want in the future. So if you even think about it from the root, and we'll use email marketing for an example, Christina would rather come up with 52 emails in one sitting and write them all out and schedule them all out so that they'll go out every single week for the next 52 weeks. Whereas I would rather come up with the ideas for the next 2 weeks worth of emails or whatever my most significant thing is that I'm focusing on with ChatGPT. And then I would rather spend 10 minutes on my walk each day, perfecting the one email I'm going to send with ChatGPT, coming home, copying and pasting it and hitting send, than I would sitting around for an entire day, scheduling out emails and never have to think about them ever again. So recognizing what you need that supports the lifestyle that you want is most important for your system too. If somebody on the internet says, oh, this is how I made $100,000, doesn't mean it's going to do the same thing for you. You got to evaluate what you want and what's going to support that.
Almost guarantees it won't do the same thing for you most of the time. Like the odds are against you if you're trying to follow what somebody else is doing. There's pieces of it that you can borrow and steal from, but trying to copy the whole thing, it almost never works. Like almost never works. Now, we've also talked about how systems have to grow with you. So how can you tell when your business has outgrown its current systems? This is a really good question.
You're frustrated again.
Well, you plateau. You're not able to scale. It becomes a bottleneck at that point. So when you start to stall, the growth starts to stall, and you start seeing things falling through, it's time to reevaluate. Because that's a great question, because some systems are good for where you are now, but as you scale and as you grow the business, and I guess that's another word, grow the business, right? You have to, you don't necessarily, and a lot of times your system, it's like clothes. Eventually once you get past this stage, now you need systems that's going to support this new level of business, as new level of, now you got a team, now you got an entire team of people that now it brings in more people, more complexity, and you have to account for that. And when you're trying to use the same system for a higher level, you might see the stall and the burnout and everything that starts breaking down again. So you'll know it because it'll feel like you did in the beginning.
It'll I love how, like, now, if you guys haven't experienced this, if you haven't built systems yet, if you haven't outgrown a system yet, you might not know what we're talking about, and you're looking for something a little bit more objective that's going to be like, this is the sign. And we're all three saying this, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it. You're going to know that there is something, there's some anchor, there's some albatross around your neck that feels like it's dragging you down. And you might not know what it is to start with. You might not be able to spot it in the beginning, but like, you're going to feel it when these systems start to fail you, when you start to outgrow them, when they're not working like they should, when they're not getting the result that they should. You will feel it. If you're tracking your data, you're probably going to start seeing it in your data. If you're working on continuous improvement instead of continuous launching of new things all of the time, but improving what you already have, you're going to notice it, right? And that's a big thing too. You can't, if you're constantly changing everything that you do, everything that you sell, pivoting into new markets and new industries, launching new products and services all of the time, you're never going to be able to really systemize. You're never going to really be able to optimize. You're never going to really be in a cycle of iterate and improve, because you're constantly in a cycle of launch and trash.
Yeah.
Right?
Glad you said it.
Never going to work. Yeah. So, I mean, you really, if you're doing the same things over and over again, you're going to feel when they don't work. And even if you've never put these systems in place in your business, you've probably got systems in your house, and you can tell when you start to outgrow them, right? Like, you've had systems where you rotate food a certain way in the pantry or in the fridge, where you put our system for how we put food into our fridge wasn't serving us. We outgrew it. We moved all the fruit and veggies into the doors and put all the condiments in the drawers, right? The system changed. Our family grew, changed. People were making their own food all the time, getting their own snacks all the time as the kids got older. The system needed to change.
Yeah.
We felt it, right? We felt it.
Yeah.
So I know that's kind of probably not the answer everybody wants, but like, you will feel it. There's not like a hard and fast line, because
a lot of times for business owners, it's in your pocket. You'll see your profit decrease. You'll see your sales decrease. You'll see your fulfillment go down, maybe your customers are complaining more, you'll have a bottleneck somewhere and you'll have to find it. And most of the time, most of the ones that I get, because of just the way I get people that come to me, it's usually because they can't grow anymore.
Yeah.
You can't scale anymore. You're stuck.
Yeah. Because they don't have any more time, because they got to shift from doing more work to being more authoritative.
They can't take any more business. They're like literally the growth is stalled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're working harder than ever. It's like, wait a minute, something shifted here. I'm working harder than ever. The business is growing. I can't take on anymore because I can't fulfill anymore. I'm stuck at this level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was a different problem.
The feast or famine coaster that happens a lot too, where it's like, I'm putting all my time and energy into getting sales, and then I have to turn around and put all my time and energy into fulfilling all the stuff I just closed, and I stop marketing and pulling stuff back. Right. So your systems aren't working to help you balance the load, and you have to rebalance your systems again. Right.
Yeah.
Because you have to be doing both. You have to be fulfilling and you have to be selling all of the time. You can't go 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20. Like, it just doesn't work. So your systems have to support both. Now, this kind of leans into our next question a little bit too. Like, what parts of a business usually break down first when systems aren't in place? Or put the other way, what systems should you be putting into place first? Right?
That's a funny question. It's really interesting, because by the time you notice that it's breaking down, it's been broken down the entire time. Like, if you don't have the systems, it's already broken. So that's one. You might start noticing when you're breaking down. Like the earlier stages, you're breaking down.
System's already broken. You figure it out when you're broken.
If they aren't in place, it's already broken. It's just that you start. It's like you can be sick. You can have all of these illnesses, but until the symptoms start bubbling to the surface, you don't know it. So if you don't have them, it's already broken. Now you break down, and then everything else, because you get you get sick, you get tired, you get burnt out. And then you go hire the wrong person. And then now you're even more tired and burnt out, because now you got to do what you hired them to do and pay them at the same time. And it just keeps going.
And we usually backfill our plate with more stuff. So like when you hire out part of it, you've already moved on, you filled your time back up. Like you got those extra, 10 hours a week back for a hot minute. And then you try and take those 10 hours back from the person you gave them to, plus the 10 hours of stuff you already filled in that spot with. Now you're like, why am I working more work? I hired people.
Yeah. I'm going to do more work. I'm going to do more work.
You break down. Yeah. That's what happens. When
it comes to scaling, right? I've always seen 3 distinct levels of, service-based business owners. The first one, when you start out, you're learning and you're executing inconsistently, right? So you have to learn social media, you have to learn marketing, you have to learn sales, you have to do this, and you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed because you have the service that you want to help everybody with, and you're like, yay! So you're really just learning yourself. You're out there, you're trying to be your best, you're really, really hopeful you'll take all the clients, even not the right ones. Then you get to the second level where you're executing consistently, and you're growing with your confidence, right? You're building a name for yourself, but you're still probably a solo entrepreneur. You're still working really hard. You can get stuck in that feast or famine cycle. So you're going to need different things at different levels. And then it's not till you get to the third level where you're navigating your authority and actually navigating scaling, right? So how can I hire people underneath me? Maybe I start training other coaches in what I do or whatever it is. But it's not till you get to that third level that we're really talking about like systemize, streamline, get all the, we're not necessarily like automating at level 1. So you really got to establish where are you at, what are the goals, and really start with those big leaks, because you're, like we've been saying this whole time, you're spending too much time and energy on something that's draining you.
Yeah. Well, I love in this world of tech, a lot of people seem to think that systemize and automate are interchangeable terms, and they're not.
Yeah.
Right. You can have a system that doesn't have an ounce of automation in it.
Yep.
And I mean, you're probably not going to and probably shouldn't add too much automation, if any, until those later stages when you've had enough human conversation interaction to be able to even automate things.
And
It's
what
like-
are you automating? Because, you have people who want to automate, but then they automate and you lose the client experience.
Yeah.
You haven't fixed anything.
Yeah.
You've
It's like the
created
people with
another
omnipresent
problem.
marketing that they take, one podcast episode, chunk it into 60 clips that don't mean anything. God, I hate those so bad. Like you finish, like you're watching this and you're kind of invested in, you're like, this is pretty good. And then it cuts off mid frickin' sentence.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking cut it off at 60 seconds because 60 seconds is what you need for YouTube shorts and bada.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is not even a complete thought. This is a garbage piece of content that creates a garbage experience for the person watching it. Like,
and then they're not
you didn't
going
even
to
put like a title card on there that said watch the whole episode over to here, right? Like, put
At
a freaking
least-
like,
or the
what's
passive income lie. You tell somebody, oh, I'm going to sell something, and nobody talks about how much marketing you have to do when you're going to sell a passive income thing. If you're selling something for $7, you're selling something for $700 or $7,000. You got to market it. You got to be all over. And if you're going to start with paid ads, the ad has to be good, right? Like none of this, all of it takes time and energy. So figure out where you're best to put your time and energy. Stop thinking there's going to be one thing I'm going to put this system in place and everything's going to change. Not true.
Yeah. And start with the simplest version first. Like,
Yes.
this blows people's minds when I tell them that to launch a course, you don't need course software. They're like, duh-huh. Deliver it through freaking email. A course is just literally a series of emails. You can link to like an unlisted YouTube video that they can watch.
Yeah.
Done. You've made a course. Poof. I think one of Melanie's early courses, we did the whole freaking thing in like a Google Doc or something, right?
Yeah.
Like, here's the actual course material. Here's the video.
Yeah.
Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. There's a course.
Yeah.
You delivered the material without course software in the beginning, right? Because it got it done. It let us test whether that was even going to be something that people would be interested in.
Right.
Right. So like we hopped on a big old soapbox, all three of us there for a hot second. But like parts of a business that break down when systems aren't in place, these are generally going to be like some of the ones we've talked about where there's a lot of repetitive action. So it's going to be things like client fulfillment, because you should be fulfilling a product or service in the same general way for every client that buys it. It shouldn't be completely different for every single client, which means we can have a system in how we deliver it. We know that every time we take a client on, we're going to go through these 12 steps, these 12 calls. Every call is going to loosely run this way, right? We can still talk to people, kind of deviate a little bit on the call, change some things up to suit them best as we go. But the general flow is this every single time. So client fulfillment is a huge one. Content creation, marketing, those kind of things are always going to be pretty consistent. If you're selling the same things over and over again, you can also systemize your marketing and sales.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to sell the same products and services all the freaking time. Wouldn't we want to iterate and improve how we go about that so that we can sell more with less effort? Yes,
that's
of
the
course.
goal. It's the
And that's a
it
system.
increases your profit margin. Again, scaling, like the leverage you create, it gives you your time back and your profit. Those are only two ways to get it. So you want to decrease the amount of time that it takes for you to deliver this stellar experience. Now, some we just focus on the time and then you sacrifice the experience, and that's unacceptable.
Yeah. So, I mean, systems are anything that needs to be iterated and improved. Anything you're doing consistently that needs to iterate and improve. Those things are going to break down if you don't have systems because you're not doing the same thing consistently. You're not checking your process. You're not sitting here and improving how you do it because you're doing it differently off the cuff every single time. You can never iterate and improve. So look at the areas where you want to see data improve. You want to see experiences improve. Like if you're doing client fulfillment, you want to see more and more customers get the result you promised. You want to see them do it in the fastest time frame possible. You want to see them do it with the least amount of effort possible. You want to see more referrals and word of mouth coming on the back end of each one of those clients that finishes your programs. These are things we want to systemize and improve. We want more people to engage with our marketing. We want more people to opt in for our things. We want more people that opt in for our things to go on to buy our paid things.
Yep.
We want these numbers to continue to improve. And the only way they're going to do that is if we watch what we're doing and we improve how we're doing it over and over and over again. That's a system.
That's the system. And this is pretty much why the Academy exists, because we want you to start and not have to wait until you get to higher levels to break down. We help you set those things up, and we help you to build these things and these systems that work for you early, so you can at least minimize or avoid a lot of the traps that, one of our mentors who's teaching tomorrow, she's working with a client, and they had spent $10 million systemizing, or no, automating. This is a perfect example. Automating a clunky system. It was clunky. It was inefficient. It was problematic. They spent first of all, they had $10 million to spend. So that could tell you, if you're feeling a little bit like, how many businesses are operating like this? They spent $10 million to automate an ineffective system.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
And you hear that a lot. And this is what we like to call, or what I like to call, predictable potholes. Right? Because we see these things. If you talk to any entrepreneur who's multi-millions, they will tell you they have sunk millions into doing something stupid every single time. And it's the same stupid things. Almost all of them over-automated something. Almost all of them, over-automated is a big one. I don't know a single person who's like made multi-millions who has not invested way too much money into over-automating something. I don't know a single one. And they regret it almost every time. Or they chalk it up to a learning experience. Do you have to go waste $10 million to learn from that experience? No, you need somebody to tell you that this is a problem, so you don't go spend $10 million doing it.
Yeah. And they didn't have that. If they had it, they probably could have avoided a lot of things. Even when I talk about the launches that I do, and I'm talking about my system for getting people in flow. And I'm looking at like a case study I'm working on. And it hit me when I did one of the launches, and that thing for my projections should have done 47% more in revenue than it did. Like, so instead of doing 200 and it's over $1 million, in recurring revenue now. However, it should have been double that.
Yeah.
But it was the systems that were not there that caused this, that were part of it. So now I'm like, okay, let's make sure that we got all of this done so that this doesn't happen. Can I do it without it? Absolutely. But you know what? It takes more time. It costs more money. It takes everything, and it costs less to do it the right way.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and I think so many of us are raised in the learn it the hard way generation, right? Like, my husband sent me this video this morning that was like a husband and wife sitting there, their kids over there about to put a fork in a light socket. And mom's like, no, you'll get hurt. Don't do that. And the husband's like, shh, go ahead. The kid does it, gets shocked. And then the dad's like, you'll know not to do that again next time, won't you? Right. Like, so many of us were raised in that generation, right? That's the only way you're going to learn, is to learn it the hard way. I just don't believe that's the only way to learn.
It's not the only way to learn, but some people, it's not the only way to learn. It's the only way some people learn. I'll put it that way.
Some people. But I feel like we can learn from mistakes that other people have made without needing to repeat those mistakes. And that is such a huge part of what we do with the Academy.
But let me tell you, like, I have a set of nieces and nephews. I have a lot, but one set, they don't know this, but I call them Model 1s and Model 2s. They're siblings. And the Model 1s, you tell them to do something, you tell them why you want to do it, they listen. The Model 2s, they got to learn the hard way. They only learn that way. And they'll tell you, like, one of them is like, I just got to figure stuff out myself. So you tell them, but then they get it once they get burned. They absolutely will not follow it before then. So those, you have to be like, okay, this is what's going to happen if you do this. You give them the same instructions. You tell them. One group is going to say, like, one of them is like, I just don't understand. If somebody else has already done it and made those mistakes, I don't understand why I should just go and make those mistakes too. The other one says, well, I just like to figure stuff out for myself. I know what you're saying and I hear it and it makes sense. They're different. They're siblings. So they can learn that way. They just are going to do it the way they want to do it. So you just have to guide them, let them know. And I mean, how many clients have we had? I know I do it all the time. I tell them, but now the difference with me is I'm not going to be a victim of your poor decisions. That's where I had to realize that in my effort to protect them, I was thinking myself. I was putting myself in a position, this is just me personally, where I was doing too much. And then when they had a problem and they learned from what I was saying the whole time, it wasn't like they came out unscathed. They learned the lesson, they got it, but then I suffered as well. Because I was in there trying to help them do something in a way. And now I'll advise and I'll say, this is what is most probably going to happen. If you do this, this is going to happen. And if they say do it, now I won't do it. I will say, you can go do it. This is what and I'll make sure it's documented. And they agree and they go do it. If they do it, then they understand, oh, I see why you said do that now. But now I'm not the one doing it. And I'm not the one because I can document that this is what's most probably going to happen. Yeah, we can, but not everybody will choose to do it that way.
I mean, that's the part we don't have control over. But I mean, at the Academy, we know where a lot of those predictable potholes are. Like you said, we can see it. We've seen it over and over again. We know what's going to happen if they go down that path with pretty good confidence.
But typically our students learn the hard way and then they listen.
The processes. You're like, this is what's going to happen if you stop following the processes. And that particular student did stop following her own processes. And then it was the simplest thing. It wasn't.
It was really easy to get her back on track because I was like, remember when we talked about setting up these processes? I told you that if you stopped following them and you stopped updating them, that it would start to be, you'd start to feel overwhelmed again. You would start to skip steps. You would start to make mistakes. Your process wouldn't stay up to date. And she's like, you did tell me that, didn't you? And it's like, yes, I did. And that's the thing. We caught it before it became a problem. We knew there was a predictable pothole. As soon as it started slipping, we're able to come back and be like, remember that pothole we talked about? You're about to fall in it all the way. Like, let's catch it before you fall in it all the way. And we were able to. And I think that's like one of the most powerful aspects to the Academy is we're not going to let you run off too far too far the wrong path, learn the lesson too hard the hard way, right? We're going to find ways to get you back on track a little bit easier. And when it comes to building systems and processes, we actually have a free training coming up next week. We actually have a couple of them. We've got one tomorrow with Chanel, where she's going to be teaching you how to train your clients, which is part of the client fulfillment processes, and to do it with integrity. And then next week, we've got somebody helping you build scalable business systems. Adriana is going to be coming in and helping you build scalable business systems, which is what we've been talking about today. So head over to neurospicyacademy.com/events. Go sign up. You'll be able to come and attend on campus with our mentors, with our students, get that full experience just like the rest of our students do, and get to experience Chanel tomorrow and Adriana next week, really helping you answer questions in their zone of expertise. We're giving you our flyby, but these guys are actual systems experts, and they're going to help you learn so much more than what we've covered here. So head over there. We'll see you. We're heading over to campus right now to run a co-working session. So bye, guys. We'll see you next week. Happy staging.